Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of today's Beyond Seven Figures podcast. Today's guest is a genius in many, many different ways. Really excited to bring him to the show today. He's been an entrepreneur for many, many, many years. He's experienced both a lot of ups and downs like many of us have. He has 5 solid startups, putting more than $200 million in combined revenue. 4 of them were successful exits. He's a CEO and founder of Champion Leadership Group. Welcome to the show, Jeff Maines.
It's great to see you.
It is so good. You know, people look at the successes that have been made over the years, and there's quick judgment to be made about, you have to be in the right place, in the right time. There's luck and there's all this other stuff. What they don't see is the hardships that make the entrepreneur and the CEO. And I've personally found that it was through my hardships that created the biggest breakthroughs. So did you find the same with you? Talk to me about that journey and let's hit some of those low points.
Sure. And I think that's absolutely right. What people see from the outside, they see successes and we talk about that, or those are the things that are written about. But those moments are great, but those are fast. They happen and then they're over. There's so much in between those moments. And I think that's really where real life is lived. It's in between those peaks. The things that happen along the way, you kind of look back and even going through it, it's not fun at the time. And a lot of times it's not fun ever. But at least you look back on it and you learn some things. Or one thing had not happened, you would not have had an opportunity or a success. It wouldn't have taken you down a path that got you where you ultimately ended up. And so I think it's really interesting looking back and just kind of seeing the tapestry. You really learn a lot looking back, but you don't have that same perspective in the moment.
You being a serial entrepreneur and whatnot, I'm sure, ups and downs, you've sort of gotten comfortable with embracing this level of discomfort. What gets you through the hardships and the down periods?
I think it's relationships. Every successful company that you see has almost died 10 times. You just don't know it. And a lot of them do. And so a lot of companies just don't make it. But even the ones that are successful, there are so many close calls. And you think about cats having 9 lives. I think entrepreneurs probably have 100. Those near-death experiences where I don't know if this is going to work or not. I don't know if tomorrow is going to ever come. But I think it's in those times, it's the relationships, it's the people that you surround yourself with that are so important. That's what makes the journey fun as well, is that the people around you on it, in those relationships and those shared experiences, and really going through something together. And I think that's the important part too, as you think about not just being in the middle of it, but thinking about the other side. There is an end to the struggle. Sometimes that ends and the business doesn't go anywhere. And now what? Sometimes you go through and you have that breakthrough and it does, and things are really, really good. But it's always a series of ups and downs. It's never always up and to the right. Things are not great. You don't just wake up with a great idea fully formed and go out and execute and exit. Just not how the world works. But if you look at it in the magazine or you hear people tell the story, a lot of times those are the things that you see. But there's a lot that goes on in between. And it's really what gets me through is the relationships and it's the people. And some of that is the responsibility I have to other people. There are days where I wake up and I don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit. I want to give up, but I can't because I've committed to other people. That's not what leaders do. And so, I have a responsibility to them. There are other people that are always encouraging me. And so when I have an idea, and maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea, it doesn't really matter, but I can throw it out there and I have that sounding board to take that idea and, well, what about this? Have you thought about that? Or sometimes it's just the encouragement of go for it. But having those voices, because the voices in our head are usually not our friends, that negative self-talk, but it's having those other influences outside that really help push us forward, and the relationships that really make life worth living and that make business happen. No entrepreneur succeeds alone. Even though maybe it looks like from the outside that sometimes that happens, it never does. It's always a team effort. And it's really based, for me anyway, around the relationships that I have in moving forward.
Tony Robbins told me this. So years ago, I traveled the world with him, and Tony Robbins, he was asking me about my problems. And when I told him about my problems, he said, Would Richard Branson look at that as a big problem or a little problem? I'm like, well, probably a little problem. And he's like, yeah. I said, Tony, why'd you ask me this question? And he said, I'm sizing you up. I said, what does that mean? Because you can tell the size of the person by the size of their problems. Big people have big problems. Little people have little problems. If you want to play a bigger game, you have to create bigger problems for yourself. Like, holy cow. But we earn our right to bigger problems by passing through those periods of resistance. And you've done this many times. I mean, for somebody, it's one thing to say, I had one startup and one successful exit, and, I'm a rock star. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do, tell everybody how I did it. But we don't know, is that one hit wonder? Because real genius is in, can they take this unconscious confidence and create repeatable success? And you've done this, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. And then also for your clients. So let's go into that part of the process. So if we were to unpack some of your unconscious competence, what would you say you can attribute your multiple successes to?
I think one of the biggest things is that I've had success in different industries. And so in every single time I've gone in really not knowing what I was not supposed to do. And I think just kind of that beginner's mind, if you will, thinking about that and going into different industries, different businesses. I didn't know how things were supposed to be done. I mean, sometimes I knew nothing, sometimes I knew less than nothing. But it didn't matter. I had to figure it out and make things work. And because of that, I made connections with things that weren't necessarily obvious. And I did things that other people either wouldn't do or have tried and said wouldn't work, or we would never try because it was just ridiculous. And
Mhm.
so, but I was willing to do that. I didn't know any better. And so I think that's been one of the things that has been a key to success, is being willing to experiment and try different things, and then also be able to port things from one industry to another. So
Mm,
because I didn't know how things were supposed to work in the industry that I was in, I just used the toolkit that I had. And that
right.
was from another industry, and be able to take something, well, this worked over here. I wonder if it would work over here. And so be able to put something like that into place and try it and see. And sometimes it worked really well. Sometimes it sort of worked and needed some tweaking. And sometimes it just didn't work at all. And so I had to find another way. But it was really just that ability and, I guess, willingness to be willing to try, to be
Yeah.
willing to fail, to be willing to experiment and do things in a way that maybe hadn't been done before.
The genius about going into other industries is that it allows you to do the things that your competitors aren't doing. So
Yes.
you can become a leader versus what many other entrepreneurs will do is look at their competitors and they'll just copy everything that the competitors are doing. But so
Right.
long as they're doing that, they're always just following. And it's going to be very difficult to be the leader if all you're doing is you're following them.
I think that's a smart thing to do, because there are things that work in other places that you can take. And the beauty of that is something that is old in one industry can
Yeah.
be completely revolutionary in another.
Yeah.
And so it's just something that competitors are not even thinking about. And then you come in and do that. And that could be a different pricing model. It could be a different way of delivery. It could be a different way of engaging clients, different way of advertising, a different way of messaging. So there's just so many
Mhm.
different things that you can do. But when you take that and bring it in, competitors don't know how to respond.
I ran into a very similar situation. Years ago, I started a real estate development business and I don't really know what I was doing. And I just thought some of the things that I was doing would be the same thing that other people were doing. And it wasn't until my accountant came over to my house, principal of a Boston accounting firm, came knocking on my door unannounced, came in my house and was like, I don't understand what's happening. You pay fair market value for the properties. Your expenses are at fair market value. They got one of the highest profit margins in the industry. And he was checking to make sure I wasn't doing anything illegal. When I told him what we were doing, which is through strategic partnerships, he was like, wow, I've never heard of that before. And it's like, it shocked me. Here I am, a young 20-something-year-old kid. I only got that advantage because I didn't know any better. But what you did, which is another smart thing, you started with the outcome that you wanted to achieve, and your decisions were based on an outcome instead of waking up and be like, what are all my to-dos? In order for you to create those like industry firsts, had a problem that you were trying to solve, as opposed to just the other way around, which is, what's something I should just do today? Instead, you're solving problems.
Right. It's all about the outcome. and the result. What result do I want to get, and what actions do I need to take to get there? So,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't move me toward that result or that outcome, then it doesn't belong on the list at all.
Now, when you sold your companies, did somebody come knocking on your door, or were you building it to sell and then listed it for sale, and that's what happened? Talk to me about that process.
I've done it both ways. I have had companies come knocking on the door, and we still get that today. I still run a SaaS company, and that happens. We get calls every single week. But there are companies that have built specifically to sell. And so that has happened, and have also had companies built, like one of the early ones. We were looking for additional capital to grow faster. And that was the goal. And that ended up being a full sale.
Wow. So for a business owner today who's saying, at some point, I want to sell my company, what advice do you give them for exiting their own company?
Well, I would say, number one is really focus on fundamentals, metrics, understand, your revenue model, understand cost structure. What does it cost to generate revenue? So, particularly in the SaaS space, what's your client acquisition cost? But that's really, it applies to every single business is, what does it cost to generate $1 of revenue? Because if you're spending $2 to generate $1 of revenue, that may not be a great model. If you're getting $1 of revenue for every 25 cents you spend or 50 cents you spend, well, that's much better capital efficiency. So really look at those metrics, understand your numbers. Fundamentals and running a good business never goes out of style. And that's something that I think has been a little bit lost in the tech space of just really focusing on a big land grab. And we've got a growth at all costs. That's not sustainable, especially in an economy. So we're starting to see that pendulum swing back the other way a little bit, but good fundamentals never goes out of style. The second I would say is make sure that you're working on your business, not in your business.
Yeah.
And so that's something we read about in the E-Myth and Michael Gerber, and people will talk about that, but it's, what does that really mean? And I think it's, one is delegating the things, the day-to-day operations, so that you're not required in the business for it to function. And that's a hard thing in itself. But then really focusing on what are the strategic things you need to do as a leader, as a CEO, to move that business forward. What is it that I need to do today that is going to have strategic value 6 months from now, a year from now, and really focusing on those things within the business instead of doing the day-to-day task or things that you think need to be done, or what I call entrepreneur syndrome. You think that you're the best at doing everything in the business because you're the greatest at it. All of us have strengths. All of us are great at some things, but none of us are great at everything. And so it's really working in your strengths and then passing off those things that are strengths for somebody else and trusting your team to do those, not micromanaging, not pulling them back, but letting them run, hiring great people and letting them do that. So I think fundamentals is first, letting go, and delegating is second, and getting yourself out of where you're working on the business instead of in it. And then third, I would say, is process. Make sure that you have structured processes in place for everything. Create playbooks, create structure around your business so that you're able to scale and grow. And that's for bringing new people in. And it also protects you from people leaving. So if you have a key person that if they left, the entire business would fall apart. A lot of us have had those people in our businesses. Sometimes they're even ourselves. But having those processes in place so that you're able to hand that off and somebody else knows how to do things in your business. They know your way because it's documented. It's not urban legend. It's not just in somebody's head, but you're able to take those and pass them on. Those are three big keys to building a company that has value, that will receive a premium valuation. That's actually one of the things that we have an assessment that you can do about really building premium valuation into your organization, which is ultimately what you want if you're going to sell, if you're going to exit, if you're going to raise money, if you're going to get loans, whatever it is you're going to do in business. These are things that you want to have. But ultimately, a lot of people do want to exit. And so whether that's now or 5 years, 10 years, retirement, but doing those things today will benefit you long-term, even if you never raise, even if you never sell.
So what would you say are the biggest influences on your multiple?
It depends on the industry. I think that's probably the first, is what kind of business is it? If you have something that's in a really hot industry, you're going to get a big multiple. If you have something that's not, maybe it's a restaurant or it's a travel agency. Travel agency multiples are just, I don't know, zero. Probably is some multiple out there for something if it's generating revenue. Or you take something that is a healthcare fintech company. Well, now you have something that it's some pretty hot industries. that it's going to be a significant multiple. So I think industry is probably number one. Second is the value of the problem that you're solving. So
Hmm.
if you're solving a very small problem, or it's something that is worth $10 a month, that's going to be a much lower multiple than if you're solving a problem that's worth 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million a month.
It's great. Now, Small Fish, Big Pond. You wrote that book a little while ago.
Yes.
What's the
Yes.
premise behind that book?
Well, again, it's kind of about making connections and things that are odd. I think about weird things. And so the book is really, it looks at entrepreneurship through the world of fish. It's part story, it is part content. And so we've got left brain, right brain, both working together. It follows the story, but it looks at it, different parts of business, and relates it to the world of fish.
Got it. And one of the big takeaways from the book would be what?
There are probably 8 or 9 different things, and it's interactive. So there are video content, there's downloads, things like that along with it. One of the big things is really creating a vision, deciding one, what kind of fish
Yeah.
are you? There are lots of choices and there's no right or wrong answer, but there are some fish that are better equipped for different types of roles in the ecosystem than others. And so it's really, first of all, deciding what kind of fish are you? What does the ecosystem look like? How can you dominate your market? One of the big points in there is to get big, go small. And so we look at the blue streak cleaner wrasse. And this thing is one of the most fearless fish in the ocean. You're like, well, I've never even heard of it. What is that? It's about 4 inches long. Sounds pretty fearless, right? And its job is to eat dead tissue and clean teeth of fish from all over the world. So big fish, small fish, head, lips, gills, teeth, everything. And so it eats dead tissue, parasites, and keeps fish clean. And that's its role. But fish from all over seek it out. And there's kind of a safe zone around what are called cleaning stations. And fish will come over, they'll open their mouth up, and the fish will go to work and start cleaning. No fear at all. Inside the mouth of a shark, a barracuda, groupers, all sorts of things, fish big and small. But it's something that is very sought out because they solve a known problem and the outcome is clear. So the big fish go there because they know that they're going to get rid of what bugs them, so that the little fish get a free meal out of the process. So it's really, deciding what is the problem that you solve. So if you're going to get big, go small. So it's really focusing in, narrowly choosing what problem do you solve and becoming known for that problem.
It's a good point you bring up. Now, you have another book coming out, and
So
that book is called what and what on?
that is called The Captain's Keys, and it is the 4 key people every successful leader needs,
Which are?
which are, and again, this is about half story, half content. So again,
Yeah.
we're doing that. This is even more novel-like than the first one. But the 4 people every successful leader needs is an anchor, a crew, a navigator, and a champion.
Huh.
And so we actually unpack each of those and how we find those. So it's the people that are on the journey with us. So the entrepreneur is the captain of the ship. And so that is part of the story of running a small business. So it is about a ship captain. And so the people that you need on your journey with you. So
Yeah.
an anchor, a crew, a navigator, and a champion.
Got it. Very cool. Now, in the time we have left, one of the biggest disruptors in our industry is AI. AI is impacting everything. So, how do you see the role of AI in the future of commerce?
I think we're going to see more and more of it. And we're already seeing that in so many places. And so, lots and lots of different ways that technology has replaced people. And so I think that we'll continue to see that in anything that is a low value task. We'll see AI getting smarter and smarter in being able to predict, because we're fairly predictable creatures. We do a lot of the
Yeah.
same things, the same buying patterns. And so, I think we'll continue to see that in commerce and the ads that were shown, and the things that we're seeing, whether it's advertising or things that we're around or it being influenced by, are things that we're interested in anyway, because it's something that we've shown some sort of interest in. And so
Sure.
AI is continuing to see that. But I think in commerce, we'll continue to see AI being a major influence. And whether that's in content, some really interesting things about that in content creation, article writing is potentially getting better and better and better. But where we'll be able to use that is we can really focus on the high value task. And I think that the high value things are really the interactions, it's the relationships, It's the humanization of business and commerce and the relationship piece. And when we can really focus in on that and let AI or automation take care of the things that are routine or mundane or things
Sure.
that are very repetitive, then we can really focus in on the people and the human aspect. So I think that's one of the ways that we can live with technology and win. So kind of standing on top of that rocket.
Now, Jeff, my favorite question to ask our guests. This is a Beyond Seven Figures podcast. You've taken many companies beyond seven figures. What is your number one biggest, best tip for going beyond seven figures?
Delegate. So hire great people who are experts at doing specific things and let them go, let them run, let them bring in their ideas and let them go. So delegate, be willing to do that. And it's so hard as entrepreneurs to let go.
Yeah.
But that to me has been the biggest key. And it's hard. Every single company, even I know this, I teach this, but every single company, it's difficult to do because it's my baby. But that's where success really takes off, is when you're willing to let go of those things that you're not the absolute best at and give it to those people who really are, that is in their genius zone, and they can take it so much further, faster than you ever could. And so you want to get beyond 7, 8, 9 figures. That's how to do it, is hire great people, delegate, and let them run.
I love that. And so there's a small fish, big pond.
Yes.
Right. Small fish, big pond. And I love that example that you gave about the little 4-inch fish. What's the name of that fish again?
That is the Blue Streak Cleaner Wrasse.
The Blue Streak Cleaner Wrasse. That is brilliant. Love that example. It's the small fish, big pond. And then your new book, the title on that again is?
The Captain's Keys.
The Captain's
Four
Keys.
key people every successful leader needs.
Something tells me you like the water. So small fish, big pond, the Captain's Keys. He's also the CEO of Champion Leadership Group. So you can go to championleadership.com. Great domain, by the way. Championleadership.com. If people want to reach you and so forth, is going to your website the best way? You talked about some assessment. Where do we find that?
Sure. You can find that on the website, and that is the SaaS Value Builder Score. So if you're a SaaS founder, entrepreneur, and want to know how to build value in your SaaS business, that is available there on the website. You can contact me there. Happy to reach out, or I am at Jeff K. Mains on all social media platforms. So you're welcome to reach out on any social.
Fantastic, brother. All right. Hey, that wraps up the Beyond Seven Figures podcast. As a reminder, for more tips, strategies, and information to scale your business, also check us out over at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. This is Charles Gadet with my friend Jeff Mains, and I will see you in another episode.